Hi, I'm Devi Ward Erickson,
And I'm Alaina Salks.
and you are listening to Sex is Medicine, your number one resource for holistic sex education. Alaina and I are bringing you over 27 years of combined expertise in the field of holistic sexual wellness to help you integrate your body, mind, spirit, and sex.
New episodes drop every Thursday morning, so make sure to like and subscribe on all your favorite listening platforms. And make sure you follow Holistic Sexology Institute on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for your daily dose of Sex is Medicine. Now let's get started. Welcome back. This is Sex is Medicine, and I am Alaina Salks.
And I am Devi Ward Erickson, and we are excited and delighted to have you here listening to us once again so that you can get your weekly dose of Sex is Medicine. Alaina and I are serving up 27 years of combined expertise in the field of sexual wellness. And we also present this information through a holistic lens. And I want to take a moment and share a little bit about what that means for us. So the holistic lens includes the whole person. We're not just looking at sexuality through this very narrow compartmentalized lens. We are taking the entire person into consideration. So the body, the mind, the heart, the genitals, our relationship and our connection to our spirituality, our relationship with our parents, our relationship to our culture, our relationship to our society. And we look at how all of these things influence us as human beings and influence our sexual development and our sexual functioning. So, for example, if you're stressed out from having a really bad day at work, some people, their orientation is to work off that stress through a really hot sex session. Other people, stress actually destroys or diminishes the libido and the desire for intimacy. I'm one of those people. I don't function well under stress. It does not increase my libido. Stress does not increase my libido, right? So we're taking into consideration all these different aspects of our humanity. Our environment affects us. Our environment shapes us, molds us, and wires us to certain propensities and certain orientations, sexually, emotionally, and spiritually, and relationally, right? So, what you are getting with Sex is Medicine, it isn't just sex information, it's sex education through a holistic lens. So, you are going to hear us talk about anti-racism and white supremacy. I'm biracial. I was born in 1974. I was born less than a decade after interracial marriage became legal in the United States. When my parents were growing up, they couldn't drink from the same water fountain. So all of these things have shaped who I am as a person and my sexual development. And I'm going to share that with you because that is the lens through which I view the world. And that is the lens through which I synthesize the sexuality information. And so I invite you, if you're triggered by our conversations about racial reality or gender or sexuality and sexual expression, I invite you to use that as an invitation to maybe understand and educate yourself beyond your current understanding of reality. Because these issues that we speak of are not unique to us. We have extensive training in anti racism and some training in gender studies. And we want to bring this information to you to help you expand your worldview and help you understand how these things are influencing you knowingly and most importantly, unknowingly. Because it's the things that are the issues that are in our blind spots. Sorry, I'm having a hard time speaking today. But the issues that are in our blind spots are the ones that trip us up. Those are the things that usually fuck us up in the end, right? So we want to bring this whole picture, this whole person picture to the conversation of sexuality. So if you just want facts and statistics, we are not your people. If you're interested in stories and if you're interested in understanding sexuality through a whole person lens, we are your chicks. And give us feedback. Let us know. And it's okay that you don't agree with everything we say. And it's okay if you don't like some of the stuff we say. That's totally cool. We're going to continue bringing you this information in the way that feels most integrous and most aligned and most honest and true and transparent to you. You can trust us on transparency. We will tell you the truth. We will absolutely tell you the truth. All right. So that's my soapbox moment. Anything you want to add to that, my dear compadre?
Yes, that was beautiful, Davy. The thing that I want to add to it as well is to presence that a lot of the sex education information that is out there comes from a scientific background, and science in our culture also typically is white, right? Most of these studies are done on white men and women, and so when issues about sexuality are talked about in the sex education sphere, oftentimes they don't include anyone who is not a white person. And so those people are essentially invisible in that space. And so bringing voice to those individuals and their potential experiences is really beneficial to people being seen and heard and felt and recognizing themselves in our talks about sexuality.
And thank you for that because it really brings to mind like back in 2015 I went to this sexuality conference in Los Angeles, and it was a predominantly white environment. I was one of the very few people of color, much less black people. I think there were like maybe four of us floating around, and very few people of color. So it was a very white dominant event. And so, for those of you who don't understand, white culture is a culture and black culture is a culture. And then there's subcultures within those. But white culture, black culture, just like, Indian culture, Asian culture, all these demographics have their own cultures, right? Doesn't mean we can't play nice together, but it's just good to be mindful of that these are different cultures and there's different rules of engagement, right? The different cultures have different rules of engagement. What's considered polite, what's considered acceptable, what's going to get you turned into a pariah, like I often am in some of these cultures. Um, so I was at this event, and it was very white dominant. I remember speaking with this other white sexuality educator. I was like, wow, it's interesting how everybody on the panel, they're talking about, because the panel discussion was like, what is the future of sex? And everybody on the panel was white. And I was like, the future of sex for the world is not only determined by a panel of white folks, right? It would have been great to have seen other people of color, other voices represented, as opposed to just this one cultural view. And I remember the woman that I was speaking to said, well, are black people having different sex than white people? Like, what's I mean, are these different groups having different sex than other people? I was like, I was shocked. So I didn't know what to say in that moment, because it's like, it's maybe it's not about the actual sex, but it's about all of the things that surround the sex. So if we're talking about the global future of sex, don't you think that we should consider things like, do people have access to resources? Are people's sexuality being criminalized? Are people's family members being thrown in jail because of the color of their skin? Is it
Mhm.
now legal to persecute people who have a different gender identity than their genital anatomy? Like, so all of these factors play this huge role. So I was just kind of shocked at like the lack of understanding about why it would be important to have diverse voices on a panel discussion about worldwide sexuality. And you have these like five white North American people who live in Beverly Hills talking about what sex is going to look like for the global majority. Right? I'm just like, and I was just using examples from the United States. I mean, in terms of the global majority, I mean, there's like worldwide catastrophes going on right now. So, all of these things that are happening in our environment affect our ability to have a fulfilling and nourishing relationship with our own sexuality, much less be able to share that sexual joy with a partner, right? So anyway, hope that all makes sense. That's kind of our hot topic for today, Alaina. I would say we were going to do a whole other hot topic, but we'll do that next episode because it's a fun hot topic. But that was kind of our hot topic for today.
Yeah, I agree.
The meaning of holistic sexology. So that's what you're going to get if you come here. Know that if you are a freak of nature, shall we say, like us. If you don't fit into the status quo, if you don't fit into the mainstream discourse on sexuality and relationship and what it is to be a human being, we could be the people for you. If you're looking for sex education from a whole person lens, we invite you to stick around and hear what we've got to say, and let us feed your brain a little bit, get some thoughts stimulated, and invite you into experiencing more than has been currently delivered to you up until now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So for today's show, as the title says, we are going to talk about the over 11 different orgasms for people with penises and men. Men and people with penises, all of you who have externally presenting erectile tissue. That's what I will say. If most of your erectile tissue can be seen with a naked eye, we are talking to you because we want to let you know that your body is a miracle and your penis can perform miracles. I'm just saying. And we want to kind of awaken you and enlighten you to the miraculous ability of your body to experience, to access, and to experience your full capacity for pleasure as a person with externally presenting erectile tissue. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna keep the mic because I'm supposed to talk about why we are talking about this today. So why we're talking about this today is to enlighten your mind to your ultimate potential. There is so much more for you than what is delivered in our mainstream Western understanding of sexuality. And as you know, Alaina and I have been practicing Tantra for decades at this point, and authentic lineage-based Tantra, specifically Buddhist Tantra. And in Buddhist Tantra, there are many stories and many tales and many wonderful verses devoted to the glories of experiencing liberation through the bliss of sexual ecstasy, right? So there is historical record of all of the multitude of orgasms and all of the multitudes of bliss that we can experience to help us realize more of our spiritual, sexual, and human potential. So most of the orientation to male orgasm, specifically in this culture, invites you and encourages you to focus on just one kind of orgasm, and that is the ejaculatory orgasm. In fact, most folks, many, many men, don't know that there's a difference between orgasm and ejaculation. And once you separate orgasm from ejaculation, it actually opens you up to this whole other buffet, this whole other palette of orgasmic experience, right? So if the only information that you're being told in the society is that you can have this one orgasm, speaking of culture and conditioning, you're a man and you can have one orgasm, and this is how you should go about getting it. You should masturbate quickly, quietly, and ejaculate, because ejaculation and orgasm are the same thing, as quickly and as quietly as you can. And then you're supposed to throw your semen away, which we've said in previous episodes and will in other podcasts and will be upcoming, that your semen is baby batter. That's actually precious life force energy. But you are conditioned in this culture to get rid of it and to throw it away like it's a waste product when it's actually elixir. And so you want to keep that in your body, or you want to be sharing it with a partner, ideally, right? So we're talking about this to destroy the myth and to break down the mental box that keeps you imprisoned and chained, I'm going to say, yoked to this one type of sexual expression, when there is so much more for you as a man. And there's so much more for you as a man in relationship with your partner. Because when you, as a lingam owner, as a penis owner, as a man, come to the table fully sexually empowered, fully sexually nourished, that you know that you have the power to nourish your own self sexually, wow, that is going to change, totally transform your relationship dynamics. And it's also going to transform the way you move in the world as a man. I think in one of our episodes, there was this this influencer talking about polarity and like how you get your woman to spread her legs for you essentially, and you have to be anchored in your male pole, your male magnet or whatever it is. Well, I'm going to tell you that there's nothing that will get you anchored in your male pole harder and firmer and longer than your embodied experience of cultivating the over 11 different orgasms that you are capable of as a man, and learning to separate orgasm from ejaculation and having total choice about if, when, and even how much you want to ejaculate. Imagine having total choice around if and when you ejaculate with zero loss of pleasure, and your non-ejaculatory orgasm opens you up into a whole new world of sexual bliss. We have taught men to do this, so we know it's true. It is absolute fact, tangible results. And so we want to broaden your horizon and invite you to expand your concepts of what your body is capable of. We want to invite you into a whole new universe of sexual performance, my friends.
Yeah, thank you for that, Davy. And I think one of the things that I really like to presence for men when they're first learning about this too is the importance of pleasure and in your overall well-being, right? So we say over and over again this beautiful tagline that you came up with, pleasure is medicine. And that's a very real thing. Pleasure has a tangible effect on our bodies. It releases all kinds of feel-good chemicals in our bodies, wonderful neurotransmitters. It reduces stress. It connects us to ourselves. It connects us to our partner. And so as we begin to cultivate pleasure, I think it's important to note that not all pleasure is the same, right? So all of these different beautiful flavors of orgasm, they they take you deeper and deeper and deeper into yourself and into your connection with yourself and others and let you explore it in these different ways. Um, and that can be deeply fulfilling and meet all kinds of needs for the lingam owners who have been fortunate enough to cultivate these different orgasms. And yeah, as well, from a tantric perspective, we say orgasm is a taste of enlightenment. So the longer the more you can cultivate it, the longer you can spend in that true nature of mind, the more um, benefits you'll see.
And I would say congruent with Tantra, again, Tantra is a path of liberation. So we are liberating ourselves from the shackles of our cultural conditioning and liberating our bodies to experience expanded bliss. Like, it is a path of liberation, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so should we talk about the definition of orgasm?
Yes. Let's talk about the definition of
Okay.
orgasm.
All right, all right. So when we get to this point, we really like to distinguish the difference between, say, a scientific or medical definition of orgasm and some of the ways that we define orgasm, because it's really going to make a difference when you approach becoming multi-orgasmic. But Davey, I'm so excited to report I haven't actually looked up the medical definition of orgasm for a little bit. It's been maybe a couple of years, and it used to be that you could only find it as, okay, orgasm for a man or a person with a penis is this, climax of pleasure accompanied by, muscle contractions and ejaculation, right? That's usually was kind of the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I am happy to report that there are more nuanced definitions out there now, which I was very surprised to find. So, one that I found here from a medical website defined orgasm as the highest point of sexual excitement, characterized by strong feelings of pleasure and marked normally by ejaculation of semen by the male and by involuntary contractions in the female. But we're talking about men for this one, also called climax. So that is a beautiful statement because it points out that it is normally, or let's say often, accompanied by ejaculation, but does not always need to be. Um, for our purposes, we typically define orgasm as a peak of pleasure, right? And that becomes really important when you begin to cultivate these other orgasms that we're gonna excuse me, that becomes really important when you start to cultivate these other orgasms that we're going to talk about because um, so the brain and body have this kind of plasticity. So the more that you're able to recognize peaks of
Mhm.
pleasure, different sensations that are peaks of pleasure as orgasm, the more you're going to get closer and closer to cultivating them as these beautiful, fulfilling, deep, uh, pleasurable orgasms.
And that part is really, really important because the conditioning that you receive as a man about your orgasm supposed to be looking this one way, which is like this build of tension. And again, there's all this tension around it. And then you ejaculate and then you get your release. That's again, it's a very limited understanding and experience of orgasm. It's very limited once you've started to experience these other flavors. And so, very often, when these other flavors of orgasm begin to arise, they arise as very subtle sensations, as little ripples or little peaks or little shivers. And men will often discount them or dismiss them and ignore them, quite frankly, in their quest to get to this giant climax. And that robs you of the nuance of sensation that is part of your birthright. It robs you of the depth and the richness of your full orgasmic ability. Because as you begin to relax and pay more attention, as Alaina was saying, to these little ripples and shivers, you actually begin to experience them as invitations, and I would say portals, access points into all these other branches of sensation and pleasure. So if you think of like the climactic orgasm as kind of like the straight point, like the trunk of the tree, when all these other orgasms are arising, it's like kind of unfurling more branches and more pathways and more routes for your energy body, your physical body, and your brain to experience sensation and pleasure. So again, it expands your horizons, and that is always beautiful. That's always beautiful. But it is important to mention that as you expand, you will often encounter what we call blocks to bliss. And these blocks to bliss are little wounds or traumas or shadows, shall we say, that are in your body and your psyche and your energy body that have been preventing you, that have been keeping you limited, that have been keeping you blocked. So as you relax and allow your pleasure to expand, it's going to run into all these little areas that you have kept yourself confined. And so that's where it's important to really be mindful, really relax, really breathe, and allow yourself to feel the emotions and let them pass through like a cloud.
Mm,
That's an
beautiful.
important piece of it because expanding our capacity for pleasure also means confronting all the ways in which we have been disconnected or divorced from our own pleasure. And I found this specifically, particularly for men, as you're going on this journey of separating orgasm from ejaculation and learning to access these other 11 different types of orgasm, or shall we say 10 different types of orgasm. It's an emotional experience, it's an emotional journey. It's not just about like your sexuality doesn't exist just in a vacuum. Your sexuality is part of your entire humanity. So as your sexuality expands, so does your experience of yourself. So does your concept of yourself. That's part of why we want to share this with you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. It's such an important part of that process. And I always am amazed at how, at least when I encounter that as well in my own body, how much there is beyond those blocks, right? Like
Mhm.
as I hold space for things as they arise and as I let them leave my body, if as I care for them and hold them, sometimes it's really extraordinarily painful and upsetting, and it can be difficult for people to understand why you would hold space for such a thing in the midst of your pleasure session or your sexual session, right? But once you get through it and you get on the other side, I'm always amazed at the how much deeper I can go, how much more pleasure I can feel, and how much more connection I can feel as well. And so, yeah, that's a
That's
beautiful
why
point
it's
to bring up.
it's why
Yeah.
it's important to have a holistic lens. right? Because again, it's the whole person and understanding, again, as pleasure rises in the body, so does our resistance to pleasure. So do our blocks to experiencing pleasure. And so the understanding of how to move through those blocks and view them not as obstacles, but as actually as allies, right? Those blocks are actually allies helping us understand more of where we've kept ourselves, again, disconnected from our own pleasure and where we've kept ourselves limited. And so, as we were saying, as you relax and allow those to process and purify, there's a whole new reality on the other side. That's the beautiful thing, using our sexuality, using pleasure as medicine, and using our sexual pleasure to expand our capacity as human beings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, let's talk about these orgasms. So we kind of we lubed you up. We set the stage, greased you up, massaged you with some information to get you juicy, get your mind malleable and ready to absorb this information. And so now we're going to break down what these 11 different orgasms are and how they might feel for you in your body. Do you want to start with that, Alaina, or do you want me to start with that?
I'm happy to start with that.
Let's have
Um,
Alaina start.
so number one on our list is the orgasm that we've been talking about, which is the ejaculatory climax orgasm. So this is the most commonly known and understood orgasm. This is where a man has an orgasm and he ejaculates simultaneously.
And feels lovely. And we hope you have lots of wonderful ejaculatory orgasms. And what I would say is that I just want to remind you that semen is precious. So I just want to give a little tip here is that, and this may be TMI, but I'm going to tell you the truth here. Like semen is so, so precious. And ladies, I just want to let you know that it's really, really good for our skin. And so sometimes if there is ejaculation that has not made it into my orifices, and again, always practice safe sex, and keep your BC, your birth control going, whatever you're using for that. But if there is semen that has not made it into one of my orifices and happens to be topical, I will often do a topical application of semen on my face to allow it to absorb into you're making a face. That's
I'm not making a face. No, no.
it's so good for your skin. It's a semen face mask. I'm telling you. Like my skin looks great. I'm 50 and I look 40. I'm telling you, it's my jungle juice and the semen face masks on a regular basis. So
No, no, it is, it is. And there's historical record of this as
there's
well,
historical
in
record.
addition to
Yes.
anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, and yes. So don't let that go to waste. And men, you can use it too. You can do
Yeah.
your own semen face mask. It will keep you looking 40 when you're 50. So who needs like collagen injections, fillers? Who needs fillers and Botox when you have semen?
When
And
you
it
have
also does
semen.
that tightening thing, in masks. Like it's a natural facelift. Yes, we are actually advocating for semen face masks on our show. We are. Do it, try it, let us know. All right. So the second type of orgasm that you might experience as a man or person with a penis is the anal friction orgasm. So this is independent of your penis. Did you know that the anus is the other vagina, y'all? Like it is. Your anus is the second highest concentration of friction sensitive nerve endings. So you want to give that anus some love. And I'm going to recommend a book for you. There may be other books, there may be newer books, but I'm old school. One of the books that really helped me understand anal pleasure for men and the different things you can experience as a man in your body and also your psyche is a book by Charlie Glickman. What is the name of that book?
The Ultimate Guide to Prostate Pleasure.
Yeah, Charlie Glickman is the author, okay? So that, and I want to give credit where credit is due because these are some of the folks that helped me like help frame and shape my understanding of sexuality. And that book for me was revolutionary in understanding the different types of anal orgasm you can have as a man, how to approach anal pleasure as a man. So if you are interested in exploring anal pleasure as a man, highly, highly, highly recommend that book. If you're interested in supporting your male partner and experiencing Anal Pleasure as a partner of any gender. Get that book. It's going to give you a lot of really great instruction on how to approach the anus and what an anal friction orgasm actually is. So there we go. That's my soapbox.
Yeah, that book's lovely too because it gets into what some of the psychological barriers might be and issues like in many cases this is the first time that a man is experiencing penetration, which can be a very, very vulnerable thing and kind of working through some of the feelings around that. So it's has that kind of holistic lens as
It's
well.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's from a holistic lens. It takes into account your psychology, your emotions, and your cultural conditioning, right?
Hmm.
So if you have fear or avoidance around exploring your anus as a pleasure zone, it means the culture is blocking you from your full sexual potential, or perhaps your cultural conditioning is blocking you from your full capacity for pleasure. So I invite you, if you haven't gone there, I invite you into your own anus. And so then I'll just cover the anus, Alaina. Then there's the
Sure.
prostate orgasms, which are deeper in your anus and actually massaging your prostate. And so prostate orgasms are what you're going to experience. You can only experience those typically through penetration of the anal orifice. Though there have been some people that have reported having prostate orgasms through stimulating the perineum, putting
Hmm.
pressure on the perineum and stimulating there. So that's also a potential, right? So prostate orgasms are deeper in the anus and are usually achieved through penetrating the anal orifice. And then there's the anal combo, the combo meal. So the anal combo is a combination of both the friction from the anal opening and the prostate, which is deeper in. So it's almost like it's similar to me as a woman, as a yoni owner, of having like a G-spot orgasm and like an A-spot orgasm, because you have the rubbing of the friction at the vaginal opening, which is where the friction sensitive nerve endings are, and then the deeper pressure sensitive nerve endings in the back of the vagina. So that's when I've supported my male partner in having those types of orgasms, and he's described it. It sounds very similar to what I experience having like G-spot and perennial sponge orgasms, as well as when I have blended orgasms. So yeah, so the anal combo in the house. Woo woo. All right. And then last one, and I'm going to hand it to Alaina, is the blended anal and lingam penis. So this is when you're stimulating your penis and you're massaging your anus, and you have a blended orgasm with both your penis going off, woohoo, and your anus going off. And there are some men that actually experience that they're able to have non-ejaculatory orgasms with that anal stimulation and prostate massage. Not all, because for some men it makes them ejaculate more having anal stimulation, but I actually have had partners of mine that have learned how to have non-ejaculatory orgasms from having their prostate stimulated at the same time as their lingam, and then they have a blended orgasm but with no ejaculation. So that's a possibility too. See, there's so much to explore.
Yeah, and what I also love about this particular orgasm is that this is a beautiful place for some lingam owners to start, because you're cultivating pleasure in both areas. So let's say you've never played with your anus before or your prostate before. You can start by doing a blended situation where you're playing with your penis, where you're more used to having pleasure, while simultaneously playing either with anal friction or massaging the prostate, and that allows you to kind of translate the pleasure from an area where you're used to having it to an area where you might not be as used to having it. So it can be a nice bridge for a lot of people.
Yeah, that translating pleasure is huge. So if you don't know about the practice of translating pleasure, that concept has been floating around in the, I'm not sure where it started from. Translating pleasure was something that was introduced to me through the lens of tantra, when I started my training back in 2008, but then it was later introduced to me again when I worked with the people at the Welcome Consensus. They often talk, and I don't know if they referred, I don't know if they use that specific terminology, translating pleasure, but the concept of it, like I said, was first introduced to me through the lens of tantra, and then later I remember conversations about it with folks at the Welcome Consensus. So the idea of translating pleasure is that you're going to cultivate pleasure, like I call it, like a big energy ball of pleasure in a pleasure sensitive area, a reliable pleasure zone. So if you know, like, the glands of your penis is like, if you touch the glands of your penis, it's going to feel good, right? That's a reliable pleasure zone, a reliable
Mhm.
source of pleasure. So you cultivate that reliable source of pleasure and build like a pleasure container, like a pleasure ball. It's just what I think of it, a pleasure energy ball. And then you continue stimulating that one area with one hand, and then you use your other hand, ideally, to touch another area of your body that doesn't have as much sensation or pleasure. Let's say in this case, your anus or even your perineum. And by connecting those dots with your hand, keeping like the pleasure going on with one hand and gently massaging or stroking this other area, it literally translates the energy of the pleasure from one area to the other. But also, it has been shown that it creates a bridge in the brain. It creates a neural pathway in the brain
Mhm.
to conjoin these 2 points as pleasure points in the brain and in the energy body as well. And so this is one of the prime techniques we teach and we use to help dissolve what's called armor in the genitals. And armor in the genitals is a response to trauma, whether it's physical trauma, sexual trauma, emotional trauma, whatever type of trauma. It causes the body to constrict and to like be to hold, to be constricted. And so there's not sensation. It's a numbness or pain or irritation. And so by using this practice of translating pleasure, you can actually dissolve body armor to help expand and open, literally open more pleasure zones with your body. So we highly recommend this in reference to exploring your anus. Build a charge first, get your reliable pleasure zone going first, and then translate that pleasure, use that pleasure energy to start opening up other areas of your body, particularly your anus in this conversation, but you can use it anywhere, my friends. All right, so is that enough anus?
Sure.
That's
For now.
we're gonna move on from Uranus, and now we're gonna go to Jupiter. Ha ha ha! Just kidding.
Okay.
That's a
So
silly monkey joke.
so number 6 on our list is a manual non-ejaculatory orgasm. So this is typically felt by people who are training to become multi-orgasmic. So folks who are practicing semen retention and who have learned some of the holds that are involved in semen retention. So in this case, typically a person with a penis or man would be masturbating, and as they got to the point of ejaculation, they would use a manual lock, which is something that we teach in our membership trainings and also in our individual coaching, but they would use a manual lock to keep the semen in their body. So it would both fulfill the need to retain the semen, this wonderful vital essence, and it helps begin to kind of train the brain and the body to understand that orgasm and ejaculation are two different functions that, while often happening simultaneously, do not need to happen simultaneously.
Yes, and those manual holds and manual blocks for semen retention are controversial.
Mm.
And I believe, again, keep in mind, I've been in the field since 2008. I was trained personally by a tantrika who had been practicing many of these methods for 30 years by the time I encountered this person. So he was well skilled and well trained in sexual techniques. And so I learned how to perform these methods safely and reliably so that you're not pressing on erectile tissue when you shouldn't be. I received guidance and instruction on how to actually find and locate the right places. So if you try doing manual holds or you're introduced to manual holds by someone who is not sufficiently trained, they can be damaging. Yes, people have hurt themselves. They have injured themselves from trying to perform some of these methods without being properly instructed. So I highly recommend against using semen retention holds if you have not actually learned them from a qualified and certified coach who has training and instruction in how to implement these methods safely and reliably, because there's a lot that goes into it. And even though you can read about some of these methods in a book, That's not the way we teach them. We don't, none of the methods that we teach came from a book. I was actually talking about this with one of my colleagues the other day. Like, nothing that we teach from our school came from a book. Some of those methods you can read about in other books, or they may be indicated in other books, but that is not how I learn them. And when you learn them from person to person, you're going to get, again, the whole wealth of information. You're going to get so much more information that you can just put on a little page. And human beings learn through kinesthetic, through I mean, we learn in multiple ways, but one of the primary ways we learn is through modeling, through watching somebody do something, by someone tangibly and manually showing us where to put our hands and how to do this thing, hands-on learning. That is how human beings have learned and developed for millennia, right? So none of the methods that we teach come from a book, were learned by me from a book. And we highly recommend, if you want to learn semen retention, true actual semen retention methods, manual embodied methods, that you work with a coach who has been trained in how to do them safely, because not everyone on this internet has. That's why, as we spoke about in our first episode, I know I'm going on a tangent, so I hope you're following
Okay,
my
no, it's a good
story here.
tangent. Keep
But this is
going.
why we talked about in our first episode why expertise matters, and also why I'm going to say always check the credentials. Because just because someone has 250,000 Instagram followers does not mean they've graduated from sex school, right? And if you haven't graduated from sex school, it means you haven't passed the fucking final exam, dude. Like, there's a final exam for a reason. Do you really want to work with a lawyer who didn't pass went to Harvard but didn't pass the bar exam? No, you don't want to do that. So don't work with a sex educator that hasn't gone to sex school or doesn't have some type of certification or credential or training, right? Who cannot give you their references and the people that they studied with and learned with and train with. And I'm honestly not doing this to throw shade on anyone. I'm doing this as a safety measure in this market because
Yeah.
it's really important. Because if you try to learn semen retention from somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, they're going to hurt you. You're going to hurt yourself, right? So you really need to make sure that the people that you are trusting your beautiful sexuality with are qualified, have earned that privilege, right? That they've earned the privilege to address your sexuality, because it's precious and valuable, and you don't need any more injury than you've already had. Trust me on that. So anyway, that's my tangent, and that's my story on the manual locks. They are, when used, again, this is my 17 years of experience in the table. I have mucho anecdotal evidence. I have 17 years and hundreds of penises, literally, of anecdotal evidence. And when the manual holds are used properly, they are one of the most effective ways to quickly separate orgasm from ejaculation in your body. It trains your body. It's like putting training wheels on your bike. It trains your autonomic nervous system that your body can actually do this. And by doing it consistently, it actually separates those pathways. So then you're able to have moments of choice where you can choose to have this ejaculatory orgasm, or you can choose to relax and allow that pleasure pathway to open up in a different direction. So they're highly effective and very valuable when done properly. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Davy. And I'd say that the other thing that I would add to that, just to reinforce your point, is that there's a lot of different contraindications to doing the holds and blocks, and people really need to know what they are because those can also contribute to harm. Things like if you're on a certain medication like Flomax, you shouldn't perform holds that involve pressure to the prostate. If you have any issues with your prostate, like surgery or prostate cancer or inflammation of the prostate, those are just some of the contraindications that would require a workaround for you to go through your journey of becoming multi-orgasmic. And the other thing that comes to mind when you talk about that, Davy, is also the importance of working with a coach is also because there's so much troubleshooting with every individual body. Like we kind of when we talk about anatomy, we kind of present our bodies in this specific way, right? But there's actually incredible amounts of variance from person to person in the way that their body is made up. Like we might all have, or generally all have the same parts, but they're always kind of organized differently depending on the person, right? And so the one of the benefits I have found with coaching around semen retention is just that that coach can help you troubleshoot so that you can do those things properly for you, for your body.
So important. So important.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause here.
Okay, so moving on, we're at number 7. These are our wave-like or fluid orgasms. So these can be they can be felt kind of like how they're described, like this beautiful wave-like fluid, pleasurable energy that is moving through the body. And I'd say this one is typically felt by men who have separated orgasm from ejaculation. This is typically more of a non-ejaculatory orgasm, and it's this beautiful, deeply felt bodily orgasm.
I would actually say that the wave-like or fluid orgasm and is one of the first flavors of orgasm to arise on their journey to separating orgasm from ejaculation. I would say that in my experience, they once they've learned to separate from orgasm from ejaculation, then those waves really start to become full orgasm. But it's one
Hmm.
of the things when you are practicing, guys, and it's one of the things to pay attention to and notice these little, like a wave, like feel it like a wave of pleasure rolling from the top to the bottom of your body. And it's going to arise like very subtly at first, but pay attention to it because, again, that's a portal. That's a doorway or a window into another, another picture of pleasure, another, world of pleasure that you may experience, another flavor of orgasm that can arise. So what Alaina was saying, like they become really fulfilling once you've separated orgasm from ejaculation, but you will start to notice them as soon as you start to pay attention.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Davy. Um, Yeah, and that kind of goes along with our next orgasm, which are the number 8 ripples or shivers orgasms. So, like wave, like, or fluid, ripples or shivers, again, are some of the first non-ejaculatory orgasms that a person with a penis might feel. So they might just feel this little sort of flutter of pleasure or little shivers of pleasure. And so many men that we have worked with have experienced those ripples or shivers and just haven't made the connection between those and becoming multi-orgasmic without ejaculating, right? And so we really presence those in order to help uh, people with penises recognize them. Because as we talked about before, the more that you recognize and celebrate those peaks of pleasures or those little ripples or shivers of pleasure, the more they build and the closer you come to experiencing those really mind-blowing non-ejaculatory orgasms.
Yes, that was another. I know I'm like talking about the welcome consensus a lot, but I just want to give credit like that. It's just coming up, right? It's I don't know the Didone episode opened a doorway for the welcome consensus to come through. But again, I want to give credit where credit is due. Those teachers who influenced and positively affected and negatively, but positive in this case, positively affected my experience and my understanding of sexology. And one of the teachings that they gave that really stood out for me in the time that I spent with them is saying yes to sensation, right? Saying yes, not just the pleasure, but saying yes to sensation. Because sometimes it may not the when these like new flavors of orgasm and pleasure arise, we may not immediately recognize them as pleasure. It's just a sensation. It's just a feeling in the body, right? And so we don't always pay attention to that because we're looking for this other thing. So we don't maybe
Hmm.
pay attention to that, or we don't fully embrace it. We don't celebrate it. So,
Hmm.
or when it comes to sensation, some sensations are bad. So we don't want to feel those sensations. So that instruction to say yes to sensation and be present with sensation really helped me reframe and expand my experience of orgasm, not just for myself, but for the men then that I taught afterwards when they were describing their experiences to me afterwards. I could listen to certain things and invite them to pay attention there. That's an orgasm arising. That's pleasure arising. Pay attention to that sensation. But then also when I've moved through my own blocks, when I've experienced pain in my body or an uncomfortable sensation that I would otherwise label as pain, I've been able to just rest with the discomfort without it even turning into pain, right? Just rest with the discomfort and then pass through it so that it could then transform into pleasure. That's the thing. These wounds that arise, they may be uncomfortable at first, but as they pass through, oftentimes they blossom into pleasure. So that teaching right there, which is, again, I'll reiterate it, say yes to sensation. Allow sensation and pay attention to it, invite it and examine it. Be curious about it and allow it to reveal the gift that it has for you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Davy.
Yeah.
And you've reminded me as well that with these ripples or shivers and in talking about semen retention and becoming multi-orgasmic, I've also encountered some men who have this belief that these different kind of orgasms like don't count. I don't know if you ever encountered that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like,
And
oh,
women
well,
too.
semen retention isn't actually orgasming. Like it's never going to be as good as a climactic orgasm. And and sometimes there's some grief as well when men are going through this process when they're recognizing those ripples and shivers where they're like, "Oh, is this all it is?" Right?
Mhm.
And I kind of want to presence that to say, "No, that is not all it is." And no, it's never going to stay below, like be subpar to a climactic orgasm. So most of the men that we've trained in this have begun to feel these non-ejaculatory orgasms at this level, but the more that they practice, the the more pleasure that they experience, and it grows and grows and grows. And some of our practitioners who've really mastered this are now having non-ejaculatory orgasms that are better than their climactic orgasms in many cases. So it's not a comparison. Like you definitely will deeply expand your pleasure capacity.
Absolutely. And so that brings us to the next type of orgasm, which is no emission and no manual block. All right. So this is when folks first start learning about semen retention, this is like the holy grail. They want to be able to have an orgasm that feels almost exactly like that climactic orgasm, but there's no emission, there's no semen, and you don't have to stop and use a manual block. And this usually, not in all cases, but usually takes time. It takes time as your body expands its capacity, as your energy body expands its capacity, it takes time. But what I want to say here, y'all, is the beautiful thing about your practice, Alaina referenced the more you practice. Y'all, your practice is masturbating. You are going to do that anyway. You are going to masturbate. It's just as we spoke about in the beginning of this episode, you have been culturally conditioned to masturbate quickly, quietly, and I can't remember what the other cue is. I had three cues. We'll just say quickly and quietly, the two cues, quickly and quietly. But the quickly part matters because if you're masturbating to porn, holding your breath and trying to build this charge so you can ejaculate as quickly as possible, you're training your nervous system to do that. So guess what
Hmm.
happens when you get to be with a partner? That's exactly your body's like, okay, game on. We're going to do this as quick as we can. We're going to, right? And that's not fun for anybody, really. Truly, it's not fun for anybody. So in order to begin cultivating these other flavors, these other branches, these other avenues of pleasure, it requires practice. So your homework is to masturbate. That's your homework. And towards the end of this episode, we're going to give you some tips to introduce into your masturbation to help facilitate this, to help you do this on your own so that you can begin exploring. So again, you can unshackle yourself from the chains of your cultural conditioning that tells you you get one orgasm and this is what it is, so that you can liberate your body, mind, spirit, and sex and begin experiencing your birthright, yo. You're the 11 different orgasms is your birthright. Your body was made for this. God made you like this. God made you for this. All right. So this no emission, no block, I want to tell you because I get to see this regularly because my husband experiences this, and Elena's husband experiences this. This is like your eyeballs rolling back in your head, your toes curling. It is like mind blowing. They go on forever. It's like, 2 minutes later, they're still like, like it's just, yeah, this is the holy grail of non-ejaculatory orgasm for men. And it takes practice, and it takes practice separating orgasm from ejaculation. So it's worth it. The holy grail is worth it when you reach it. Trust me. And it feels great in my body when it happens as well. I get all that orgasmic energy and no semen. So you don't have to worry about pregnancy or any of that stuff. You get the full orgasmic charge, no semen, and then he keeps on fucking. And then you get some more. So there we go. Anyway, that's that. You want to talk about heartgasms, Alaina?
Sure. Number 10 is heartgasms. So this is when you have an orgasm that you feel travel, or in my experience of this, you feel it traveling to your heart and kind of bursting out of your heart center. This can happen for people of any body, but it's pretty significant for lingam owners because there's often a detachment between like their heart, their emotions, and their sex, right? So when we can kind of reconnect to their heart, to their sexuality, they have these beautiful heart opening, luxurious orgasms.
Yeah, because again, remember where I keep bringing this back to cultural conditioning, like you are conditioned to divorce your heart from your genitals. And I'm going to say that infant male circumcision is a physiological expression of that and a physiological reinforcement of the severing of the heart from the genitals, my friends. And so this is part of your reclamation. Your heart, your brain, and your genitals are one organism. Your heart, your brain, and your genitals are one organism. Yeah. All right. So next one is the perennial orgasm. So orgasms that come from massaging your perineum. So your perineum is your taint spot. Starts like right below your jewels, your testicles, and goes to your anus. And for some dudes, they have very long perineums, and some are little tiny perineums. So your perineum is going to be different depending on your body, but it's a beautiful thing. And you can potentially have orgasms from stimulating that. It's also the bottom end of your central channel. So you can like kind of stroke the wind energies, the moving wind energies of the
Yeah.
body to stimulate an orgasm. You're working like with the energy body in that spot directly.
Yeah, yeah. And, under your perineum, we have like the part of the perineum is made up of the bottom half of the root of the lingam. So, like, we've got some erectile tissue there, and at least the top half of the perineum. And then, as you said earlier, you can access massaging the prostate if you put a lot of pressure. But even with light pressure, there are nerves that connect into the prostate from there as well. So, there's a lot of potential for pleasure in the perineum.
Yeah, and I would say that like the perineum, how do you say that? Perineum.
I think it's a tomato situation.
Okay, okay. So I say perineum. So the perineum is also a really beautiful place to explore if you're a little shy about the anus. It's a good starter place. It's a good
Mhm.
warm up for anal stimulation. Okay, so that's the perineum. So Alaina, number 12. Look at this. Now we're the over. We're over 11, y'all. We just outlined 11. Now we're over 11.
Number 12 is nipples. So this one's this is really simple. So just stimulation of the nipples can create orgasms in all people, including men. So it can be a wonderful site of orgasm for some people with penises. And there can sometimes be, I mean, as with anything, there can sometimes be some nervousness or shame around stimulation of the nipples. But once opened up and cultivated, it's a marvelous source of pleasure.
It is. I love
Yeah.
nipple orgasms myself. We can have full body orgasms, orgasms that spread throughout the entire body, and these full body orgasms can. It's kind of going into the next orgasm, but some full body orgasms can happen just from breathing with no touch, just from having a heartgasm can blossom into a full body orgasm. So
Mhm.
full body orgasm is when your whole body's lit up. Some might
Beautiful.
call that a Kundalini experience.
Mm-hmm. And then number 14. So this is not the last orgasm, right? There are definitely other orgasms out there that are there to be discovered, right? But so far, we've written down 14. And please let us know if you've experienced other kinds of orgasms. We'd love to know. But number 14 on our list is the energy orgasm, which you just mentioned. So these are no touch orgasms that come from, it could be breathing, it could be meditation, it could be, meditation with a little bit of pelvic floor work. So these are wonderful energetic orgasms and they feel amazing,
Mhm.
deep
I,
and expansive, like bliss void. Yeah.
yeah. You can have orgasms at the dinner table, y'all. I'm just saying, I am here. I am here for a culture that allows orgasms at the dinner table. I think we'd have a much happier social network if people were having orgasms at the dinner table. Energy orgasms, or other orgasms if you like, whatever kind you like. Okay. So, what are the keys to unlocking your multi-orgasmic potential? Well, one of them is semen retention. Right. So truly, 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 again, everything I say coming from 17 years of expertise, that doesn't mean I know everything at all, but it does mean that I have a lot of anecdotal evidence under my belt. Right. And so what I've seen and witnessed in many of my male partners and male students around the world is that in order to access more of these the more subtle flavors of orgasm and allow them to blossom in to their true potential, separating orgasm from ejaculation is critical. So this is one of the things that we teach at our school, and we have a wonderful online program that's been very effective for literally thousands of men, no joking. It's called Ejaculation Mastery. We're going to put the link below for you guys to sign up. We currently have like a monthly payment thing to make it financially accessible for everyone because it's hard out here for a pimp. I know, right? So we have a payment thing to make it accessible for you all, or you can pay all at once for 1 year access. And this is a step-by-step guide to help you separate orgasm from ejaculation. And it's been very, very, very effective. And the beautiful thing about the program is if you have any questions, you can send us an email and then Dr. Erickson will answer them for you because he has mastered all of this ish. And he is currently having he's the Holy Grail. He's the Holy Grail orgasm haver. So that is your key to accessing all of these other orgasms, but we wanted to give you some other resources to get started right now that you can just listen to our beautiful voices and we can maybe stem talk you into having non-ejaculatory orgasm. So this portion is called Just the Tips. Just the Tips with Devi and Alaina. Okay. Number one tip. Alaina, do you want to give them just the tip or should I?
Sure. So number one is pause, relax, and breathe with deep belly breath. So if you find yourself getting closer to ejaculation, either alone or with your partner, you want to pause, relax, and take some deep, deep breaths.
Mhm.
Um, this can just help you calm down, activate your autonomic nervous system in terms of the parasympathetic side of it, which will help you to slow down that whole process. And yeah, you can't understate the importance of breath in terms of control, right?
Wow. Yeah, the breath is key. So deep belly breathings. Pause, relax, and breathe. And then the next thing you're going to do when the crisis has passed, you're going to slow down your movement. So again, whether you're solo or with a partner, y'all are wired, porn wires you to do jackhammer. Jackhammer is not your friend. That's nobody's friend until you get a little bit higher up when, like when she's a little bit more engorged, and then jackhammers can be a lot of fun. But particularly for you, if you're wanting to have choice around your ejaculatory response, you need to pause, relax, and breathe and slow down your movement. Slow movements, maybe even combine your movement with your breath. So that's step number 2 in just the tip. What's number 3?
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I also love slowing down because it allows for more exploration of pleasure too. Like so often we're really wired to kind of just like pound. Like we've talked about that before. You've talked about that in other podcasts. But when you slow down, you get to kind of tune into the more subtle sensations that both you on your own or you and a partner might be feeling. So it has
Oh,
that
exactly. And
juicy
especially
benefit.
Yeah, and especially because, as we've been saying, a lot of these other different flavors of orgasm arise very subtly. So if you're going so fast, you're going to miss all the subtleties. So slowing down, I think of it like luxurious. Like you're not 15 anymore, having to masturbate in your closet, you're a whole grown ass man. Like luxuriate, light some candles, like get comfortable, like be totally nude, like put on some music. Like luxuriate in your experience of self-pleasure, and act like you invited your greatest lover to come make love with you. You are your greatest lover, so take your
Mhm.
time. Allow yourself to experience the luxury of your solo pleasure practice.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for that. So number three, we have eye contact with your partners. This does a number of different things, right? So first, it's connecting you in with your partner. And when you're connected in with your partner, you're also more in the present, which allows you to be more aware of everything that's happening, both aware of your body and aware of their body as well. But when we're maintaining eye contact, we're also activating the vagus nerve and calming our nervous system, right? So again, um, a lot of things like premature ejaculation or uh, just being able to tune into those subtle sensations. You're not able to do it when you're in your sympathetic part of your nervous system, like your fight or flight stress part. You have to be relaxed enough to experience those subtle sensations, and that vagus nerve activation is great for that through eye
Mhm.
contact.
Beautiful. And that brings us to tuning into subtle sensations. So, pausing, relaxing, breathing, slowing down the movements, making eye contact with your partner, if you're with a partner, are all setting the stage for you to be able to attune to your body and the messages of your body. So, sensations are communications from your body. And again, the more aware you can be of these subtle sensations, the more that those can guide you into these other portals of pleasure. And the beautiful thing about this practice, which it is that as you do this in your sexuality, it's then going to translate to other areas of your life. So when you're walking around in your everyday life, your ability to attune to the messages of your body, what your body is telling you, and what your heart is telling you, and what your emotions are telling you, you're going to have more self-attunement. So your sexual pleasure practice is a beautiful way for you to cultivate more self-attunement in every area of your life, y'all. Wow. You get to cultivate that through bliss as opposed to therapy. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And number five is celebrate all peaks of pleasure as orgasm. So we've already talked about this at length, but the more you celebrate those beautiful peaks of pleasure and sensation, the more pleasure you will experience as you acknowledge them.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. And then celebrate all peaks of pleasure as orgasm, which is what I think you just said. So
Yeah,
the next one is self pleasure without porn regularly. So there you will hear us say there are skillful uses for porn. So we are not anti-porn. There's it can be used mindfully and skillfully and holistically. Porn does play a role in holistic sexology. And for these purposes that we're telling you, and for the purpose specifically of expanding your orgasmic capacity and cultivating your ability to separate orgasm from ejaculation, porn is often a distraction. And with porn, you're not attuning to yourself and your body and your subtle sensations. You're attuning to these things on the screen, right? So it actually acts as it obscures your ability to self connect. So you can use porn sometimes. We recommend using it skillfully, and I'm sure we'll do another episode on how to use porn skillfully. And for this purpose, we invite you to self pleasure often without the use of porn, and approach it as a meditation, right? So that's also one of the things that we teach in the ejaculation mastery program is we teach you to meditate while you masturbate. That's what we teach you to do so that you can then again expand your capacity for pleasure and realize, your birthright. You're over 11 different orgasms, guys. Yeah. 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 Cool.
Hey.
Anything else you want to add to that?
Nothing. I guess just you already said how to learn more. Should we say it again?
Yeah, so go to our website, holisticsexologyinstitute.com. That's where you can find us now. You can also still find us at authentictantra.com, but we're going to bump you over to holisticsexologyinstitute.com. And we have our Ejaculation Mastery for Men program there. And as we said, you can do a monthly membership for that, or you can do a, one-time pay. We price our things economically to be able to service to be able to service more people, to be able to support more of you and being able to access and expand your capacity for pleasure. I know I keep saying those words. Those are our tag words. Expand your capacity for pleasure. So yeah, go to holisticsexologyinstitute.com and go ahead and get that ejaculation mastery program. We'll put the link down here below as well. And yeah, if you have any questions, send them through the website. And like we said, Dr. Erickson loves answering your questions. We love answering your questions too. So you'll probably see some of them on the podcast. But Dr. Erickson, he lives for it. When those questions come in, he's like, yeah, he truly, truly loves it. And he'll like write you a book. He's a professor, Professor Erickson. So he'll write you a book and answer to your questions, essentially. I'm like, wow, it's like a whole dissertation.
Yeah, yeah. And Davey, I also want to give a shout out to our Tantra Healing Coaching Program for Men as well, because if you're a Lingam owner and you'd really like that one-on-one support through the process, you can take one of our Tantra Healing programs. And I think we have an option for getting troubleshooting sessions for folks who are doing EJM as well on
Yes,
our website
I
too.
believe so. Those will all be on our website. And if you have any questions, our team is happy to answer them. But yes, thank you for the shout out for the Tantra Healing for Men program. If you're requiring and yearning for that one-on-one compassionate support. So thank you all for listening. Once again, we are so grateful that you're drawn to this work and that you're drawn to us. And we really appreciate those of you who feel seen and held and supported by the holistic lens that we offer. Um, and yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. So much love, peace, and blessings, and we'll see you next week for your next dose of Sex is Medicine. Woohoo!
Bye. You've been listening to Sex is Medicine, your #1 resource for holistic sex education.
Make sure you like and subscribe to Sex is Medicine on all your listening platforms and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, where you can get your daily dose of Sex is Medicine videos and episode recaps. Also, make sure you register for your weekly dose of Sex is Medicine at holisticsexologyinstitute.com and send us your questions, please, at questions@holisticsexologyinstitute.com. Thank you so much for listening to Sex is Medicine.